it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
Palestine is experiencing an historic moment following the statements by the US administration regarding Jerusalem. With the statement, the US administration has chosen to go against all the international and bilateral agreements and has chosen to ignore the international consensus of world leaders, religious leaders and regional organisations over the recent days regarding Jerusalem. The recognition of Jerusalem as the capital is rejected by the Arab world and goes against all the efforts to foster peace, and is nothing less than a declaration that the United States is withdrawing from the role it has played in the peace process for decades.
There's a profound sense of disappointment and anger among Palestinians with this announcement. There are calls for violence, and last night we already saw Palestinians in Bethlehem burning pictures of President Trump. There are calls for 3 days of rage, which could have started today, but we have very cold, wet weather here in Jerusalem, and it could be same weather for the next couple days. But there is anger here among the Palestinians, also among the Palestinian leaders, a real sense of frustration about where exactly does the peace process go. Now, it should be pointed out, as Rich pointed out, that the White House is going to use some very specific language that still could allow for some negotiations in Jerusalem's final status to be negotiated directly between Israelis and Palestinians. So Palestinians have said in the last couple of days that as long as there is a carve-out for East Jerusalem, the potential for an East Jerusalem capital in the future, this entire peace process system and endeavor is not going to just completely come off the rails. But if President Trump uses language like a united Jerusalem, like Israelis want him to use, that really could set off a much wider burst of anger here. Palestinians will very much be watching to see the exact language that President Trump uses today when he addresses the country and really the world.
We therefore disagree with the US decision to move its embassy to Jerusalem and unilaterally to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel before a final status agreement. These decisions are unhelpful to the prospects for peace in the region, an aim that I know all of us in this council remain committed to.
Anger on the streets of Istanbul. Hundreds of protesters gathered outside the US consulate to protest US President Donald Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. They say Trump's controversial campaign to transfer the US embassy from Tel Aviv is illegal.
This is a big conspiracy against Muslims, and most of us seem unaware of it. We're here to say no to persecution. We want our voices to be heard.
These protesters, just like their government, maintain that any decision on the final status of Jerusalem has to be an integral part of a peace deal between the Palestinians and the Israelis. They say President Trump's decision is an insult to 1.5 billion Muslims across the world. The Turkish government has also warned of dangerous repercussions to Trump's decision. They say it could plunge the Middle East and the world into what it called an endless crisis. Following a meeting with Jordanian King Abdullah, who is visiting Turkey, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan joined the chorus of condemnation.
Any step to change Jerusalem's legal status as affirmed numerously by UN resolutions should be rejected. Nobody has the right to play with the fate of millions for their personal ambitions. Such measures would only work to the advantage of terrorist organizations.
Jordan's King Abdullah warned the decision would have dangerous repercussions on security and stability.
Therefore, it is imperative now to work fast to reach a final status solution and a peace agreement between Palestinians and Israelis. And this must allow Palestinians to establish their independent state side by side with Israel and its capital in East Jerusalem.
More protests are also planned across the country. Of all the issues at the heart of the enduring conflict between Israel and Palestinians, none is as sensitive as the status of Jerusalem. The holy city has been at the center of peacemaking efforts for decades. Donald Trump's approach, say these Turkish protesters, threatens to smash a long-standing international consensus in a dangerous way. Mohammed Adu, Al Jazeera, Istanbul.
Clashes have again erupted in Jerusalem and the West Bank. Palestinians declared 3 days of rage following President Trump's controversial decision to recognise Jerusalem as the Israeli capital. In Jerusalem, protesters threw stones at police, who responded with sound grenades and tear gas. Several protesters were arrested. An RT crew is in Jerusalem. Our correspondent Charlotte Dubinsky and her cameraman witnessed the violence firsthand.
So we're here on the middle of, as you can hear, we're having some tear gas that's being shot off all around us. And we're in the middle of a protest now. Palestinians demonstrating against the fact that President Trump has named this the Israeli capital. So we've just had to take a few moments to get some safety equipment on as we are in the middle of this protest here in Jerusalem. As you can see in the distance, there are a group of youths who are here to protest that decision by Donald Trump to name Jerusalem as the official capital of Israel. And if you look down this street, you'll see some of the security forces present from the Israeli Defense Force. Also some officers on horseback. They are used to drive away some of these crowds. We've just come to the side of the street now because some of the protesters are actually throwing rocks and bottles down in our direction towards the Israeli security forces, which are behind us. As you can see the security forces are just coming past us now. These are Israeli security forces who are going to different parts of the street to try and break up the protesters. You see some of them still running down behind me. Here on the streets, people are angry, and they are not shy about showing it. Charlotte Dubinsky, RT, East Jerusalem.
Well, protests also gripped the West Bank and Gaza. Palestinian authorities say that 2 people were killed in the unrest and more than 1,000 injured. Local journalist Hind Koudari reports from Gaza.
Well, anger is the mood of the Palestinian streets, especially after the airstrikes launched on the Gaza Strip on 2 Hamas-belonging sites and facilities. 2 members of Hamas were killed. Tensions are increasing. We were just now on the buffer zone, and there were a lot of confrontations between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Hundreds of youth are now on the buffer zone. The ambulances are waiting on the buffer zone. Everyone's scared for new injuries.